The hallway was bright, polished marble floors reflecting crystal lights, white walls gleaming like a palace built for power. Kang Jae-min walked through it with his phone pressed to his ear, his voice calm in a way that frightened men more than shouting ever could. "Tell them I don't negotiate twice," he said. "If they hesitate, burn the root." He turned the corner and stopped. The next hallway cut downward into softer light, shadows pooling along the walls, and there, moving slowly with a cleaning cart, was a woman. She didn't notice him at first. Her focus was on the floor, on the careful rhythm of her steps. The light touched her skin and lingered, deep and rich, like dark coffee warmed by sun. Not dull, not hidden, alive. Her body moved with natural confidence, full hips, rounded curves pressing gently against the maid's uniform, strong thighs guiding each step with quiet grace. Jamin forgot what the voice on the phone was saying. His eyes traveled without permission, the sway of her hips, the line of her waist. When she turned slightly to adjust the cart, the fullness of her chest pulled his attention lower before he caught himself. Then she lifted her head, and that was what truly caught him. Her face was striking in a way that didn't beg for attention. Smooth dark skin, flawless and glowing. A strong, clean jawline that gave her beauty weight. Full lips that parted slightly when she realized she wasn't alone. Her eyes, sharp, intelligent, aware, met his without fear, framed by thick, natural hair pulled back neatly. She saw him staring. Her steps slowed. "Sir?" The man on the phone was still talking. Jamin didn't answer. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice lower now, distracted. She swallowed once. I'm the new maid, sir. I was told to clean this floor." "The new maid," he repeated, testing the words, as if they didn't belong together. "Yes." He took a step closer without meaning to. Then another. The phone slid slightly from his ear. "Are you always this beautiful?" he asked quietly. "Or is today special?" Her breath caught, just enough for him to notice. "Sir, I'm just doing my job." He stopped directly in front of her, too close. Close enough that she had to tilt her head to look up at him. He smelled clean soap and rain. She felt the weight of his presence press the air thin. "You don't look like someone meant to stay invisible," he said. "I could take you tonight. Right now." His voice dropped. "I want you to be mine." The moment tightened. "Boss." The sharp voice snapped through the hallway. Jamin blinked like a man waking from something dangerous. His jaw hardened as he lifted the phone back to his ear, eyes still locked on her face. "I'll call you back," he said, then turned and walked away without another word. She stood frozen, heart racing. If that moment hooked you, don't just watch, like the video, subscribe, and comment below. Would you have stayed or walked away? And that was how it started, because Zuri Okafor didn't come to Kang Jae-min's house by accident. She came because someone she loved was being held hostage, and this was the only way to save him. An hour earlier, she had entered the building with a borrowed badge and a calm expression she'd practiced in mirrors. New maid, quiet, obedient, invisible. The housekeeper had listed the rules in a clipped voice: no talking unless spoken to, no wandering, no eye contact with guests. Zuri nodded to all of it, memorizing corridors, cameras, reflections. She learned quickly that this house wasn't just wealthy. It was armed. Silent men. Locked doors. Power humming beneath the marble like electricity. She kept her head down and worked. But she felt him before she saw him again. The penthouse shifted when Kang Jae-min was near, like gravity bending. Zuri sensed it in the quiet, in the way staff straightened instinctively. When she bent to mop another corridor, she felt watched again and forced her hand steady. Her phone vibrated once in her pocket. She didn't look. She didn't need to. The image burned into her memory, her younger brother's face, bruised but alive. The message beneath it, do your job. Zuri swallowed and kept moving. Jae-min stood in the study later, city lights stretching endlessly beyond the glass. He replayed the hallway in his mind despite himself. The way she'd looked up at him, not pleading, not weak. Something about that unsettled him. Background? He asked without turning. Yang, his right-hand man, checked a tablet. New hire. Came recommended through Mrs. Choi. No issues so far. No issues, Jae-min repeated. He didn't like the way that sounded. He closed the tablet. Caller. Zuri was summoned quietly. She entered the study with her hands folded, posture respectful. The room smelled of leather and rain. He had removed his jacket. The white shirt clung lightly to his frame, open enough to reveal dark ink curling across his chest and shoulder, marks earned, not decorative. Look at me, he said. She did. You understand where you are, he continued. Yes, sir. You understand what happens to people who lie in my house. Yes, her voice didn't shake. That interested him. Why are you here, Zuri Okafor? She chose her words carefully. I need the work. Everyone needs something, he said, stepping closer. What are you willing to give to keep it? The question landed heavy. I'll do my job, she answered. Nothing more. A faint smile touched his mouth, not kind, curious. We'll see. He dismissed her with a gesture, but his eyes followed her until the door closed. He didn't miss the way she walked, steady, controlled. Not rushed, not careless. That night, rain returned heavier than before. Zuri worked the upper level, mapping, doors, counting steps. She bent again to the floor, the motion familiar now, when his voice reached her. You move like you belong here. She looked up slowly. He stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled, tattoos visible now along his forearm, ink dark against skin. His gaze dropped briefly to her body before returning to her eyes. That can be dangerous, she said. Everything in my world is dangerous, Jae-min replied. The question is whether you survive it. She rose to her feet, heart pounding, and met his stare. I intend to. The silence stretched. You distract my house, he said finally. If you stay, you follow my rules. And if I don't, then you leave, he said, now. Zuri thought of the message, of the door, of what waiting outside meant. I'll stay, she said. His eyes darkened. Good. She didn't realize until he turned away how tightly she'd been holding her breath. Behind her calm face, fear and determination tangled together. Because she had crossed a line. And Kang Jae-min never let people cross lines without consequences. Zuri locked herself in the small bathroom of the staff quarters and pressed her palms against the sink until the cold steadied her breathing. She had crossed the line the moment she said she would stay. Now she had to move. Her phone vibrated once in her pocket. She didn't take it out. She already knew what it would say. Time was running out. Every hour she delayed meant someone else paid for it. Someone who trusted her to be braver than fear. She looked at her reflection. Dark eyes steady, jaw tight, lips pressed into a thin line. The woman staring back didn't look like a criminal. She looked like a cleaner in a borrowed uniform, and that was exactly why this could work. Zuri waited until the house settled. Kang Jae-min was gone. Not just absent. Gone. She felt it in the way the air loosened, in how guards relaxed their shoulders just enough. His presence bent the house into order. Without it, cracks formed. She moved quietly through the corridor, cart rolling softly, keys clinking with deliberate care. Every step was calculated, every breath counted. The study door loomed ahead. She had memorized its lock, 2 cameras, 1 blind spot. Zuri bent, pretending to adjust the wheel of her cart, then slipped her hand inside her apron and pulled out the thin piece of plastic she'd hidden there since morning. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she slid it into the lock and twisted gently. Click. The sound was louder than it should have been. She froze. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Zuri's heart slammed against her ribs. She grabbed the handle, pushed the door open, and slipped inside just as a guard passed the corridor, eyes forward, unaware. The door closed behind her with a soft, final sound. The study smelled like leather, rain, and something metallic. Power lived here. It clung to the walls, the desk, the dark, wood shelves lined with files that weren't supposed to exist. Zuri didn't waste time. She moved to the desk first, fingers light, opening drawers just enough to see. Weapons manifests, shipping codes, names, routes, everything she needed, and everything that could get her killed. Her hands trembled as she photographed documents with her phone, working fast, breath shallow. She kept listening for footsteps, for the sound of a door opening, for the voice she feared most. She moved to the bookshelf, sliding a finger along the spines. One didn't belong. A safe. Her stomach dropped. She knelt, pretending to clean as she worked the dial by touch, recalling the pattern she'd watched him use once from the corner of her eye. Her mind replayed the numbers. Her brother's face flashed behind her eyes. Click. The safe opened. Inside were ledgers, a burner phone, and a photograph. Zuri's breath caught. It wasn't her brother, it was her, the hallway, the marble floor, her face lifted, frozen in that first moment when Kang Jae-min had seen her. The photo was recent. Her blood turned cold. The door opened behind her. Zuri spun, scrambling to her feet, heart pounding so hard she thought it would give her away. Kang Jae-min stood in the doorway. For a split second, neither of them moved. Her mind raced, grabbing for the lie she'd prepared. I was cleaning, she said, lifting the cloth in her hand. The housekeeper said... He closed the door slowly. The sound echoed like a verdict. His gaze dropped briefly to the open safe, then to the photo in her hand, then back to her face. You're very thorough, he said quietly. Her pulse roared. I didn't mean to. Stop! The word cut clean. He stepped closer, not rushing, not angry, dangerous in his calm. Do you know what happens to people who enter my office without permission? Zuri swallowed hard. I know what happens to people who don't do their jobs well. His eyes flickered. Interest, calculation. You think cleaning justifies this? He asked. I think, she said carefully, that if I leave dust where it doesn't belong, I get punished. A beat. Then he laughed, low, brief, surprised. You're brave, he said, or stupid. Sometimes they look the same, she replied. He stopped in front of her close enough that she could see the faint scar near his jaw, the dark ink climbing his throat. He reached past her and closed the safe, the click sharp in the silence. You shouldn't be here, he said. I know. And yet you are. Yes. Silence stretched. The city hummed beyond the glass. Leave, he said finally. Now. Zuri didn't wait. She walked past him, legs shaking, and didn't look back until the door closed behind her. She didn't breathe until she reached the stairwell. Her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Did you get it? She typed with shakings. Fingers. Yes. Then get out. Zuri leaned against the wall, heart still racing, and slid to the floor. Fear washed over her in waves now that the danger had passed. She had been inches from death, inches from exposure. And Kang Jae-min stood alone in his study, staring at the closed door. He replayed her answers. Her calm, her audacity. He picked up the photograph and turned it over. She's not just a maid, he said to the empty room. Something had entered his house, and next time, he wouldn't let it walk out so easily. The night settled heavy over the city, thick with rain and unfinished business. Zuri stood in the quiet corridor outside the guest wing, her heart still racing from what she had done earlier. The house felt different now, tighter, watchful, like it knew a secret had been pulled too close to the surface. She heard his footsteps before she saw him. Kang Jae-min doesn't walk quietly, someone had once whispered. The house moves for him. The door behind her opened. You, he said. She turned slowly. He stood there in the low light, jacket gone, sleeves rolled, dark tattoo lines visible now along his forearm and disappearing beneath his shirt. The rain had darkened his hair slightly, water catching at his jaw. His gaze was steady, unreadable, but focused entirely on her. Come inside, he said, not a request. Zuri followed him into the room. The door closed behind them with a final, deliberate sound. Tonight felt different. He felt different. He didn't circle her this time. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, the authority in the space he occupied. I told you earlier, he said calmly, that if you stayed in my house, you stayed under my rules. Yes, she answered. And tonight, he continued, eyes lowering briefly to her uniform, then back to her face. I need you. Her breath caught. Tonight, he repeated, slower now. I want you to be mine. The words settled into her chest, heavy and dangerous. This wasn't impulse. This was ownership spoken out loud. Sir, she began, instinctively stepping back half a pace. I'm only a maid. This isn't... His hand came out, stopping her retreat. He didn't grab her. He simply blocked the space, palm against the wall beside her shoulder. You were close enough to enter my office, he said quietly. Close enough to touch what no one touches. Not a guest, not staff, no one. Her pulse thundered. You didn't remember your place then, he continued, so don't pretend you remember it now, she swallowed. That doesn't mean... It means, he interrupted, leaning in slightly, voice lowering, that you don't belong where you pretend to belong. His gaze dropped again, this time openly. The apron, the way the fabric pulled gently across her curves, the contrast of white cloth against deep, glowing skin. Take it off, he said. Her fingers hesitated. The apron, he clarified, slowly. Zuri's hands moved before her mind could stop them. She untied the knot at her waist and slipped the apron free, folding it once, then letting it fall to the side. Without it, she felt exposed, her body revealed in a way the uniform had softened. Her curves were undeniable now, her presence impossible to ignore. Jae-min's jaw tightened. Beautiful, he said quietly. Your skin, your color. People spend their lives trying to possess what you were born with. She shook her head. You shouldn't say things like that. You shouldn't stand in front of me like this, he replied. Yet here we are. He stepped closer. Close enough now that she could see the faint scar near his jaw. Close enough to notice how his tattoo stretched when he moved, dark ink following muscle and memory. His fingers lifted, brushing a strand of her hair back behind her ear, slow and deliberate. You make it hard to remember restraint, he murmured. Her breath came shallow. I don't belong to you. A corner of his mouth curved, not in humor, but certainty. You stayed, he said. You agreed. In my house, that means something. His hand lowered, resting briefly at her waist, not pulling her closer, but claiming the space. The moment tightened until it felt like the world had narrowed to breath and skin and the storm outside. Remember the deal, he said softly. If you stay here, you're mine. Yes, she whispered, almost without realizing it. Then kneel. The word dropped between them, heavy with meaning. Zuri's knees bent slightly. Her phone rang. The sound cut through the room like a gunshot. Both of them froze. Jaemin's eyes snapped to her face. Slowly his hand dropped from her waist. Who's that? He asked. She didn't answer. Let me see it, he said. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. I said, he repeated, voice colder now. Let me see your phone. Her fingers shook as she reached into her pocket and handed it over. The screen lit the room. "Did you get the access? We need confirmation. Your brother doesn't have much time." The warmth drained from his face. He read the messages once, then again. When he looked up, the man standing in front of her was no longer the one who had touched her hair moments ago. He was something else entirely. "So this is why," he said quietly. "This is why you came." Zuri's voice barely held. "I didn't plan to get close to you." "And yet," he said, stepping back, eyes dark and calculating, "you came close enough to let me want you." He turned the phone in his hand, then looked at her as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "A maid," he said. "A spy. A liar." She met his gaze, fear and resolve colliding in her chest. "I did what I had to do." Jamin's expression hardened. "And now," he said, "you'll learn what it costs." He turned toward the door. "Yang!" Footsteps approached. Zuri stood frozen, apron on the floor, heart racing, knowing the night had changed everything, because tonight was the night he wanted her, and the night he discovered the truth. If this ending kept you holding your breath, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because the next chapter will decide whether she survives what she started.